So we're going to keep on talking about the Port of Barcelona. Emma just mentioned this new innovation hub. It's called BlueTechPort, and it's located at the Port of Barcelona. We're going to see now 3 examples of startups that are based there at BlueTechPort. We'll go through their experience, their solutions, and also the issues that they have digitalizing. So let's have a talk. It's going to be a panel moderated by Javier Garrido from Port of Barcelona, and the speakers will be Elisenda Ventura from Maritime, Henry Hooper from Maritime, and Yolanda Calvo from JCB Shipping and Solutions.
Huh? Yes. Okay, so welcome to this panel session. Thank you very much for the presentation. So the idea of now I'm going to present our speakers. So Elisenda Ventura from Maritime. Thank you for coming, Elisenda. So she's a product lead at Maritime and holds a master's degree in nautical science. She oversees Maritime solutions for MARPOL e-declarations and has expertise in digital products. And later on, she will explain us all the challenges and the solution that they are offering. Henry Hooper, he's founder and CEO of Maritime, with a mission to transform how marinas and boaters interact with each other. While being a passionate sailor and working for a lot of years as deckhand all over the Mediterranean, he has gained years of experience in this sector, and he's now has a lot of experience with platform startups that seek to disrupt traditional sectors as the one of as the maritime sector, in which we are working all together. And Yolanda Calvo from JB Shipping. She's business development manager and holds a degree in economics. She has more than 20 years in experience in international business, and now is helping companies to win and build international customer loyalty with innovative shipping solutions. So welcome, and thank you very much to all of you for being here and to come from their companies that they are working in BlueTechPort in this new project of the Port of Barcelona, which is very exciting and which has a lot of future and things to come. So the first part of this session will focus in explaining what are the problems, the issues, the challenges that the maritime sector, the port sector, the logistics, and also the nautical industry, which is something also important for the Port of Barcelona. So we will focus on this topic. So, Elisenda, what are the main digital challenges that do you think that there are nowadays in the maritime operations?
Sure, thank you. So for a little bit of context, at Maritime we are a solutions provider, digital solutions provider, and we are focused on simplifying maritime certification processes. So that means that most of our use cases are focused on the ship-shore interface, whether the ship is a ship owner, the crew, and on shore we could be talking about port authorities, maritime service providers, port state control, flag. So there, and to be brief, I would like to highlight maybe 2 challenges. One is for sure the friction that we see in the exchange of information between the actors. So right now, although the industry is changing a lot, still it's very much paper-based. The means to exchange information are quite traditional. We are talking about documents, emails, WhatsApp, phone calls. So that means that most of the time the information might not be updated. And as the maritime industry is a volatile environment, that means that can cause delays. And in the worst case scenario, we can have an accident as well. So for sure, that's one of the challenges that we see, friction in the exchange of information. And then there is another one that's newer, I would say, and it's a positive challenge to have, but it's that as most and more companies are adopting new technologies and systems, we see that there is an increase in the complexity for some of the actors that are using those systems, because now, for example, in the case of a ship agent, in the port of Barcelona, he or she will need to use a system to input the data, but then when they will go to another port, for example, Algeciras, they will need to use another system. And sometimes those systems are not compatible between themselves, so they cannot share data. Sometimes the data that they are sharing, it's not in the right standard. So there is also a lot of work in that direction to make sure that this exchange of digital information is easy and smooth.
Okay, yes, I totally agree. I mean, the interoperability is something of information is very important, and to have standard solutions for the maritime industry that at the end is an international business. So Yolanda, from your experience, what are the problems that in shipping logistics and sustainability?
Mm-hmm. Well, also to put a little bit in context, JCV Shipping, we are a freight forwarder, 100% specialized in maritime transportation, and our aim is to help exporters or importers to win and retain clients by means of our services. So first of all, one of the challenges that we saw is that whenever the goods arrived to the port of loading, it came like a fog, and there was no information for the shipper. So what we did is to think, okay, can we set this information into one single place? And on the other hand, is all the different shipping lines, shipping companies, they've got their own language. So can we unify this language into one single language so that we can introduce this language into the platform and the customer knows every time, on real time, what is happening with their goods? That was the main challenge that we thought it could help shippers or exporters, companies, to gain and retain clients, because this information is not only in the platform, but it can also be shared with their customers. So they sell a good, and they can follow what's happening with this good until it arrives to their customer. So let's say we save time, money, because it's also we could also get the information about incidents, delays, so that the customer at the end can gain time, save cost, and use this time to propose new value to their companies. And in the way of sustainability, is nowadays we are having more and more questions about how much carbon print is in every step of this supply chain, and we are working on developing new solutions.
Okay, great, very very interesting, and it's a huge challenge, I guess, this track and trace of all the goods, in a complex system, in the complex system of the ports, in the maritime sector. So now we will shift from the more commercial shipping business to the nautical sector, which in Barcelona we have a very good example, a port that has a very nice port city area. Like next year is going to hold the Americans Cup, and the nautical business is something that is very important. So what are, under your experience, Henry, what are the challenges of this industry?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, or one of the key surprises, to be honest, when I joined BlueTechPort was mainly the companies are in the more freight sector or focused on freight. And at Maritime, we're more looking into the marina space, so recreational harbors. But I mean, from the challenges that were mentioned, they're pretty much the same. And I would maybe assume somewhat even more intense, because there's much smaller teams dealing with the same problems, right? So a lack of information transparency, a lack of collaboration, especially when you talk about marinas and sailors wanting to go maybe down the coastline from marina to marina. If there's no collaboration or understanding of network effects, it's a tedious process every time it's slightly different. So the problems are very similar, just that it's hitting much smaller teams, and with smaller teams there comes an even higher reluctance or maybe even a level of being scared of change, right? If you've adapted to a certain process at a certain point, even if you're not happy with it, or if it causes stress in a marina team, or even if your customers are somewhat unsatisfied, as long as it kind of gets you through the day, then that's almost enough, or at least it doesn't give enough room to consider change, right? Bigger corporates, bigger companies have the ability to keep their main business running and have strategic decision makers on the outside to think about how to improve. In a case of a marina, that's all basically done by the same people. So creating the trust in especially a young company like Metarina, that we bring positive change for them and that it's worth for them to take a step out, change certain things and go back in. That's kind of the key thing, the doubt of maybe technological transformation that happened 20 years ago versus how tech can be easy and also respectful towards tradition is something that's only gradually happening. But it's happening, so that's good news.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's an interesting topic, no? The human capital readiness, no, to adopt all these technologies and to change, no, their daily basis. So now we will shift, no, to explaining a little bit the technology and the solutions, no, that your companies are offering, no, and what are you working in the BlueTechPort. So Henry, to keep on the nautical sector, what is the unique solution to solve problems that you are offering for the nautical sector?
I think we all touched upon it in the various problem statements that were mentioned. As of now, if you look at a marina or at a marina operation and software that is available in that space, it focuses on how can we document things that happened in real life in a tool for maybe the authority or for bookkeeping purposes or just to kind of make sure you have things under control, right? But there's no means of proactively planning how a marina is occupied, which maybe sounds very basic, but if you think about any booking scenario, booking food from Glovo, booking a hotel, all that only works because they can somewhat predict an availability of a cyclist who brings you the food, of a room, whether it's available. All that only works if you start having transparency about what is going to happen in the future. And today, it's the matter of the fact, if you call a marina and you want to reserve a spot or even consume a service, let's say next week, the answer is, then call me next week, you know? Not because they're not trying to be unfriendly, it's simply because they don't know. And I can tell you, because I've pretended to be the software for 1 year with my team, where we were just doing the phone calls and trying to mimic what the software is then intended to do. So just that lack of planning ahead or looking forward is not there. And why is that not there? Because you have multiple stakeholders. It's not just software for the marina, but always built with the end customer in mind. And you talked about this as well, right? That we're moving more and more in a direction where the end customer wants to have transparency about maybe a footprint or where things are coming from. But in our case, they just want to have transparency because a private person ultimately wants to know what he does next week. It's not like you wake up every morning, you're like, oh, where do I sail today? Right? So building software that considers the end customer and enables the marina to better cater to them is kind of the key differentiating factor at our company.
Okay, great. No, and I think that now you have the huge challenge, no, that the American Cup is coming, and we'll have a lot of movements of vessels, no, of people around. So it's an event that is going to increase a lot the nautical interest and a lot of movement and flow of people. So I think that you come in a good moment, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic moment just because you feel that vibe in the city. At the same time, I can also be honest, the boats that you see here in Podvay, they're not particularly our target customer, right? They have 10 people taking care of what our software does, so they don't necessarily have the problem of not enough money or people to take care of it. So yeah, I tried, but yeah, they didn't speak the same language.
Okay, yeah, I can understand. Okay, so Elisenda, now coming back to your sector, no, what are you offering to tackle these challenges that you were mentioning before?
Yeah, so on our case, we have, Navisem has 3 legs, to explain it simply. So one is we're looking at merchant shipping, so that means especially port call administration, so all those processes related to a vessel entering and exiting a port, whether it is the process itself of getting the permit to do that, or the numerous maritime services that they may need to do while being in port. For example, MARPOL, bunkering, so that would be one thing. Then we're also looking at seafarers' credentials, because again, they are going on board ships. There is also port state control involved. There is a lot of regulations around that, a lot of certification processes. So we are offering a solution in that space. And last but not the least, we also work in some key strategic projects with the super yachting industry, because there is a change in the industry, and we see that there is this willingness to digitalize processes. And to go back to what I said before of the friction that there is in the exchange of information, basically what we do is we offer space to share that information in a way that it's digital, that it's safe, that it's traceable, kind of like Yolanda does. And for example, for a more concrete example, in the case of seafarers' credentials, what we do is we give maritime training institutions a platform from where they can issue maritime credentials to the seafarers, and the seafarers, instead of receiving that via courier, 20 days later, they receive it on their mobile phone instantly, and then they can go on board with that phone, with that credential, that it is verifiable. So that would be an example of what we are offering. And I must say that all of our solutions are being implemented in Barcelona, so we are very happy to be working here.
Okay, great. That's very interesting. And what is the focus, no? The technology that is behind your softwares, no? Are you working with blockchain, no?
Yeah. So, I mean, we are a company that is focused on APIs first. As I said before, interoperability is very important for us. But yes, we are also using deep tech technologies such as blockchain. Blockchain because we think that it fits very well with the use cases that we are working on. So we have a number of parties that they may not need to trust each other, but they want to share information. That information needs to be traceable. It needs also to be immutable in some cases. So we basically secure that data with blockchain, specific data fields, and also the documents that are generated. We have developed our own blockchain-enabled electronic certificates. We call them BEEs. And the BEEs basically are living documents. So instead of looking at the document as a paper scan, we look at the document as a living thing. And that means that we are securing each and every of the data fields that confirm the document. And if one of that data fields changes, then the document stops being valid, and that can be easily checked via QR codes that we are also embedding on that document. And yes, we are also using artificial intelligence, but maybe I will just pass the question to Yolanda also.
Okay, great. Thank you, Elisenda. So Yolanda, explain please what is your solution offering and what are the also technologies, no? That
okay, we've got a lot of things in common. I would say, first of all, what we thought is what needs the customer. It's like we were observing all the steps that customer was doing, like phone calls, emails, where is my good, where is my merchandise, and we thought, okay, can we help our customers to get this information in a real-time way, and then we developed this platform, this online platform, under programming language.net, is a program, a software that can be developed by our own. But we also used tools like Microsoft Azure ecosystem to give security to the customers, integrating this information into this software. As well as Elisenda, we also developed an API so that the customer can integrate this information, this living information, into their systems, so that they've got all this information into one single place. Not only the track and trace, but also the documents and the link that can be shared to their customers. Only the public information, not the documents that are private, no? But it's like a mixture between own developed software with already existing systems like Microsoft Azure or Microsoft Power BI. And also with artificial intelligence, we can predict what is going to happen, because the platform learns if this, for example, let's say from Barcelona to Shanghai, it takes 30 days. This is a direct shipping, direct connection. But if, for example, there is a transshipment port in the middle, let's say via Singapore to Australia, Sydney, then the machine learns if this shipping line has taken 42 days, this is with German, 42 days in October. Next October, will this take 42 days, more or less, or is there any kind of thing that is happening in the transshipment port that can make a delay? So the machine will tell you, okay, now we've got, I don't know, congestion in Singapore, and then it will be like 10 days more in transit time. So this helps the customer to inform their customer at the end, you're going to have a delay, or the customer at the end can already take this information from the system. So I explained. So I'm sorry because this chaotic explanation, because it's like a mixture of different technologies, but the aim is to give transparency and to integrate and collaborate, so that to make a bigger commercial opportunity for all. No?
Mm-hmm. No, thank you. I mean, I think that is very, very interesting, no, and very useful also for customers, no, this information. Also because nowadays there is a lot of disruptions, no, that can happen in the other part of the world and can affect also the supply chain of Europe, no, and this is to have resilience, to adapt, no, these solutions that they are helping to have this flexibility. And you were also talking, I was thinking about this sharing information, no, or these spaces where you share information. Do you find reluctancy from some customers, no, that maybe think that they are giving too much information to some competitors, no? Do you?
Well, I think not only customers, like let's say shipping companies, they've got all their own language, and it was there's an initiative, for example, Digital Container Shipping Association, that they tried to unify languages, but still they are in the step to develop a language and not sharing all the information that regarding the shipments. That's why we decided, okay, let's go every shipping line so everyone separate from the other, because it's like we are the ones who are unifying this thing, no? It's quite difficult to. So I think it's important to start, and then and all the teams that are connected will continue starting at the first, maybe with a test. And then if there's confidence with this test, then more information can be shared. Mm-hmm. But I agree there's
reluctancy, no?
Fear, no?
Fear. Reluctancy or fear, not to share. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So now we will shift to the last part of the session, which is focused more on the impacts, no, that you're having, the benefits, no, and providing maybe some examples, no, that can clarify why the solutions and technologies, no, that you're working on are having a better or making a better digital port or a more sustainable port. So Elisenda, please give us some
examples.
Some samples.
So now I can come back to artificial intelligence. So there to apply that technology, we are working with a use case that is to achieve just-in-time bunkering operations. So bunkering is the activity of supplying fuel to a ship. And today, those operations, especially in bunkering ports such as Singapore, Rotterdam, and here in Spain we have Algeciras, Las Palmas, Gibraltar also, that it's not in Spain, but you know what I mean, it's very close by. So all those bunker ports, today the operations go, they follow the first come, first served rule. That means that vessels sail to the port, and when they arrive, they need to wait because maybe the bunker barge is not ready, pilot is not available, there is some congestion in the port. So there, what we saw is that, and this was relayed to us by the ship agents that were experiencing also these delays, that, okay, how can we make that more efficient? So that's when we apply artificial intelligence. Basically, we are giving the algorithms the information about the estimated time of arrival of the vessel, maybe some technical parameters about the vessel itself, the size of the hoses that they need. We are also giving it the schedule of the bunker barge, the conditions of the port, and then the algorithm turns out the optimized estimated time of arrival, that if the vessel follows that time, that means that when they arrive, they won't need to wait. And that also means that they can slow down while sailing to the port, which also helps with reducing the fuel consumption and the greenhouse gas emissions. So we see a reduction of the fuel while sailing and also in the port area, because we must think that when a vessel is waiting in the port, the engine is on. So that means that it's running and it's burning fuel. So that means an increase of the greenhouse gas emissions in the port area. And in places like Las Palmas, the port is almost inside the city. So that means it also affects people that is living there. So, and there we have estimated, like in a very conservative number, that if that solution is implemented in the top 10 bunkering ports, we could be reducing 2 million tons of CO2 emissions every year with this solution, being conservative. So it's a good number.
Okay, no, it's very interesting. And now that in the port of Barcelona it's going to be electrified, no, all the wharves, it's also important, no, to have this type of solutions that can make this process of connection, disconnection, no, more fast and efficient. Okay, now we will shift to the nautical sector, no, to Henry. So what are the benefits of the Metarina solution?
I mean, it's maybe an odd way to answer the question, but when I think about why we started the company or where it came from, I've always had that understanding that I wanted to have an impact in some way or form. And then during entrepreneurial education and during working in startups, you see all those beautiful businesses that maybe typically tweak something a little bit better, right? How can booking a hotel be a little bit better here and there? And those are respectable and growing and fascinating companies, and I learned a lot there. But the beauty of the nautical or of the marina sector is that, especially if you compare it to the hotel space, it's maybe even 20 years behind, right? So seeing the change in a marina before they start using our product versus after using our product is not like they're doing a little bit more business. The team is a little bit less stressed. Customers are a little bit happier. It's more like beforehand it was pen and paper. Everyone in the team was in a bad mood. Business was not growing versus afterwards, it's a very seamless experience. And we talked a lot about sharing information, about creating transparency. In the marina world, it's so far behind that the first step is to enable these teams to start thinking more bigger on the terms of impact. How can they maybe shorten the passage into the marina, or how can we maybe suggest a boat to go to a different marina depending on winds or something like that, to save fuel, etc. There's so many use cases, but to be quite frank, the reality is that marinas need to step up their game, be enabled to operate differently, to start really looking at these topics. So we're still on the catch-up game before we can look into the broader future.
Okay, yeah. So that's exciting, no? It's like a very accelerated transformation process for all the port workers in the marinas.
Yes, I mean, it's for sure a leap of faith. It's fascinating to see, but it's also not like everyone's welcoming us with open arms. They're like, first of all, this can't be true. So, but once you get past that, it's nice to see the effects.
No, now what I think is that after COVID, no, people is trusting more in technology, no, and digitalization of processes, no. So it's also a good moment, no, to try to convince the port workers.
Yeah.
Okay, and Yolanda, to end the session, can you give us some examples, no, of the impacts or the benefits that your solution is giving to the maritime and port industry?
Well, mostly is the time saving and the gaining of this time to give value to the customers, to the companies that these customers are working in, to avoid Excel phone calls that are sometimes long-lasting, and to give transparency, confident. But not to forget that we also accompany these people. So technology is there to make the things easier, but we help. We are consultants, so we want to avoid these problems, and we've got examples a lot: export, imports. For example, some raw materials that were expected to arrive in Barcelona at one time, and we were informed that the vessel was arriving later, and they used this vessel as a moving stock, so that they could take these raw materials from other sources and produce the product on time. So. This could be one, but there are a lot. So it's technology, yes, but also with a human approach. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's interesting. So thank you very much. We are running out of time, maybe to wrap up a little bit. No, I think that even if you come sometimes from different sectors, no, the challenges that you're facing are quite similar. No. The solutions also, they are also similar. And I think that now that you're working, no, in the BlueTechPort, no, you can share experience, know of each other, no? And I think that it's a very nice ecosystem to improve the Port of Barcelona.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for your
Thank you.
interventions and for being here.
Thank you for your insights and your experience.